Well, hi folks, welcome to Pete's Kitchen Garden. It's Wednesday the 5th of April. It's not been a bad day today at all. About 20 past 5 in the evening now, just starting to cloud over, but I'll tell you what, I'm absolutely knackered. I had a couple of ton of soil delivered for today for the raised bed down the bottom of the garden. Let's have a quick walk around, I'll show you what's going off. Just before I stand up, this border, some beautiful tulips coming up there. Can't beat having a few flowers. I love the veg, but it's nice to have a few flowers. Potatoes, first earlies, rocket, all same variety, all out of one pack, as usually I end up getting 2 or 3 varieties and wasting a load. Put them in, fill them to the top. I've seen a lot of people just fill the pots to the top rather than adding compost as they grow, and I don't think it makes any difference, to be honest. I mean, when you see farmers putting potatoes in, they just dig a massive bloody trench, chuck the potatoes in and cover it over. So that's what I've done with them, and it'll make sure that if we do get any frost, which we can easily get in April, that it doesn't pinch them. I might eventually try and get some wood chip around them, because the blue looks horrible, but there you go. I've rotivated some of our own compost into these beds. Nothing to go in there just yet. It's still a bit early. I had to put this little fence up, just a bit of chicken wire. So I was talking to my neighbour over the other side of the garden yesterday, and this is next door but one's garden, and their little one was sort of stood there right at the edge of a pond. I had a heart attack. Fortunately his mum was closer to him than I was, so she managed to grab hold of him. So this is the main reason that I've had the 2 ton delivered. Barried it all through from the front. It was delivered loose, and this is a kind of mixture of 3/4 of it's like a sandy topsoil, and then about 1/4 of it is compost, and onions and carrots and leeks and parsnips will be going in here this year. I've put this net on. I know it looks bloody awful, but it's just to keep the cats off, at least for the next few days, because they will dig in this, absolutely guaranteed, whenever there's fresh soil down. But under that net I've got 12 rows of onion, 6 rows of red, 6 rows of white, and I've got 4 rows of carrots that I've put in between the onions, and I'll continue to do successional sow-ins. And then this end's going to be where the leeks and parsnips are going to go, and the overwintering carrots probably. Just a note on onions, actually, when I do my onion sets, I know some people say have a little bit poking out above the surface. I don't do that, I've never done that. I bury them about, I don't know, tips of maybe 1/2 inch or so under the soil. And I always have a lot of success with onions, and also it gives them a chance to root before the shoots really start to get to any decent size. So we have lots of pigeons around here, so it's quite a handy thing. But yeah, I always do well with onions, reds and whites. Not necessarily a case of skill on my part, I just seem to be lucky with them. There's a couple of fruit bushes. I don't know if I've shown you these. We've got a little blackcurrant bush there in the corner, and this is a gooseberry bush. Now, I've not had gooseberries for years, so be an interesting one. View back up the garden, very nice. Right, into the greenhouse. Just gonna shut the door. Right, so I've done a couple of bits in here as well, actually. So I've filled this border again with homemade compost, and this is where the tomato is going to go. So this is a shallow border. This is only maybe about 3 inch deep, about as deep as a grow bag. Because what I noticed last year, I mentioned this in last video, sorry I'm repeating myself, but the roots tend to shoot out sidewards. I had them in pots, and would have probably been better off in grow bags, to be honest, so I'm going to give this a try this year. This border, again, with our own compost, I've filled that up ready for the cucumbers and hopefully the peppers. Now, my tomatoes have germinated, I've pricked them out, potted them on, and they are doing just fine. Peppers, I always seem to struggle with them, and I don't know why. I mean, last year, to be fair, last year was my fault. They germinated, they were fine, I had decent plants. Did them a bit too early, brought them into the greenhouse, and we had a cold night. Not frosty, but cold, and they don't really like the cold, which is why my tomato seedlings aren't out here yet. I just don't want to risk it. But I think, timing-wise, I've done everything later this year. at the proper time really, and not trying to rush and do things too early. It's the same with my potatoes, to be honest. Last year I started some off silly early, I think in January in the polytunnel, and they were alright, but they just grew slowly, and they all ended up being ready at the same time anyway, and a couple of them got bitten by frost even in the polytunnel. So yeah, I've been a little bit more sensible about that this year. Sorry, I can't talk properly. I'm that tired, honestly, and I'm really aching as well. But I really wanted to get a video in because I'm at work for the next few days. So yeah, leeks doing okay. Beetroot starting to germinate. These are the ones I've done in clumps, just like Dan, Allotment Diary. Great channel. He does his beetroot like that. So I'm going to do one row like that, do them in clumps and then transplant them out. And I'm going to do another row in the traditional way, grow them a bit bigger. They're probably the ones that we'll use for pickling. Spring onion. There is one tiny little one. You can actually just see it there. Just there, just starting to germinate. I only did them a few days ago, so to be honest, the fact that anything's germinating is pretty good. Marigolds are just looking fantastic. Calendulas. Some lettuce. So I've got I think 3 different types of lettuce in here, and it's basically bits I've got left over from last year. So a bit of a mixture there. We'll see what comes up. What I do with my lettuce is I'll sow sort of 4 or 5 seeds. What I tend to do is I don't sort of poke holes in the compost anymore and put seeds in, because I find when I cover it up and then I water it, I end up with a massive hole. So I sort of do it the same as you would in trays. Compost so far, lay my seeds on top of the compost, and then do another layer of compost over that, firm it all down nicely. And all I'll do with these is, usually I'll thin them out so I end up with 1 per module. But what I think I'm going to do, and what I saw, I can't remember whose gardening video it was, I saw it a while ago, and it was an Eastern European lady, great video, and she was thinning out carrots, and she just used scissors to chop them instead of actually pulling them out. Well, I might use that principle here, because if I pull these out, it can sometimes disturb the roots of the others. I've actually got some little deadheads, you know, deadheaders, which I might use to do that. So that's the plan there. Dahlias from the seeds that I was given. That's my little boy there outside the greenhouse. I wouldn't let him in because I'm filming. Dahlias, all doing alright, some slower than others. As I think I mentioned in the previous video, a friend gave me these. They're about 3 or 4 years old, the seeds. I sowed about 50 of them. This is what I've got. But I didn't want any more dahlias than this, and I didn't pay anything for the seeds, so that's fine. This one's struggling a bit, and that one's not really growing, but the other ones are doing okay. So far so good. Petunias, they're doing really good, and pansies. These were actually a bit of a bugger to prick out and pot on, because even though they were big enough, even though the plants were reasonably small, the roots were just you know, trying to separate them out, but managed to do that, and yeah, they're perking up nicely now. Cucumber, I'm a little earlier with cucumber, I think, than last year. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. Sugar snap peas, these just went in today. I'm not doing them in guttering this year. I'm going to do them in single modules like this. The gutterings have got a great idea, it really does work. But I haven't yet decided whether I'm going to do sort of wigwams to grow them up, or whether I'm going to do as I normally do and build a frame. What I do know is that frame is going to be taller than I normally make it. I think last year it was something daft like sort of 4 foot high or something, just used what I had kicking around. And of course the peas, the sugar snaps just sort of grew up it and then grew over it, and it just became a massive bush. So we'll try and avoid that this year. But it's all about trying things, experimenting, learning, watching lots of other YouTubers. Busy Lizzie, Patience New Guinea. Now these are doing alright, but I'm getting real worried about these. I'm not sure what that is and why the leaves are turning that colour, and a couple of the leaves have started to fall off. Now they're starting to bud and they look healthy enough. I've been pretty good on watering. You know, I've not had them sat in water all the time. I've allowed them occasionally to dry out, but then watered them, kept the soil moist. These were the ones I did from cutting, so fingers crossed. I don't quite know what's going off there. If anybody has any if anybody has any comments or suggestions, please, I'd be grateful to hear them. Asters, again, I mean, there's a few there that are probably just about ready to, you know, to prick out and put on, and then a lot of them don't seem to have germinated. But again, I only probably want maybe, what, 10, 12 plants. So it's still cheaper than going to a garden centre and, you know, buying the mass plants. So there we go. And I've got some sweet peas in there, although I haven't got a clue where they're going to go yet. I was going to put them in this border just outside, just in front of the shed there. But the problem is that the water drips off that roof, so when it rains, this border is not just getting the water that falls on it naturally, but it's getting everything off this half of the shed, which means it can get quite waterlogged, and it's quite clayey anyway. So I don't quite know what I'm going to do with that yet. As you can see, there's a little kiddie's fork in there and a trowel. That's actually my grandson, so that's his bit where he can play and dig and things like that. You've got to keep him occupied, haven't you? That's about it, folks. I'm just going to quickly nip outside and just show you this little border, little evergreen border. They're coming along all right, and I've got these planters ready on the decking. Going to do something with them. There's the square one and then the circular ones, which were part of a drum kit. I'm going to do something nice on the decking. Put some nice flowers in there this year, and that's about it, folks. From a very tired Pete. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. As always, look after yourselves, take care,
see you later,
and bye for now.